Hello, and welcome to the Misty Morrison podcast. I'm your host, the wonderful Misty Morrison. So, let me tell you a little bit about the podcast. Here on the Misty Morrison podcast, we have 3 different segments. We have Was I in the Wrong, which was our initial launching segment, where I read Reddit stories and give my opinion. It's mostly Am I the Asshole type stories, where people are either asking if they acted appropriately in a situation that's already passed or asking how to deal with a current situation. The next segment that we have is Petty Please, where we read stories of pettiness, entitlement, kind of Karen behavior. And then we also have What the Fluff, where I read stories. A lot of the stories will be from, tales from the front desk, tales from retail, tales from customer service, tales from tech support, those kind of stories, just where it's just unbelievable the way that people acted. So that is basically what the podcast is. I read the stories, give my opinion. While this is available in audio format, podcast only, or video on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, you can leave a comment down below with your judgment on the stories or your advice. If you are listening on podcast, you can comment on socials. You can find me at Misty Morrison Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. I post twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We do post more Was I in the Wrong than we do of Petty Please and What the Fluff. So that's mostly the content that we have. And most of our episodes, we aim for the 20 to 30 minute mark for episodes. So it's not super short, but it is still easy to digest. Maybe it can get you through your morning or afternoon commute. I also have my own subreddit, r/Misty Morrison Podcast, where you can submit your own stories to be read on the podcast. I always try to remember to put the link to the original stories on Reddit in the description box below, in case you guys would like to read the original story for yourselves, or even better, leave a comment for the original poster or OP. If you are watching on YouTube, please go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. It helps the channel grow. And if you are listening on podcast, go ahead and leave a 5-star review if you like the content. That is our introduction, so let's get into the stories. Hello, and welcome to episode 4 of Was I in the Wrong on the Misty Morrison podcast. Let's jump right on into the stories. Story 1. Okay. Story 1 comes from r/Am I the Asshole? AITA for not considering a name important to my parents and my husband's parents for our daughter. Initial reaction, no, it's your kid. You've got all the power. You and the husband, you and the dad, all the power. Nobody else's opinions matter. So let's read it. My husband and I had our first child together a week ago, and we chose a name that our families weren't thrilled about. Wren, for those who will ask. They didn't really say anything, but I know neither side loves nature-themed names. It was a couple of days after she was born that my parents told me they have the name Dorothy saved for a daughter after me, and when I was 2, they miscarried a baby and called her Dorothy in their hearts. They told me Dorothy would be a lovely name, and Dorothy Wren didn't sound terrible, so wouldn't that be a nice way to honor the baby who should have been my sibling? A couple of days later, my husband's parents and my parents told us they wanted us to consider the name Dorothy, and after discussing it, they realized it had meaning on both sides. My in-laws were helped a lot by an old elderly neighbor when they first got married, and her name was Dorothy, and they always considered that name for a girl, but they had all boys. Both sets of parents said it was like a message being sent, and it would be the perfect name for our daughter. My husband reminded them we had already named our daughter, and she's Wren. The parents asked me to consider it as a mom, and I said no. That my husband and I chose the name we feel is right for our daughter, and we have 0 regrets. They told us back in their day you took your parents' and your family's wishes on board with naming your children, and followed conventions of the past. My husband actually argued with his parents because they don't speak to either of their first families, and were estranged from them their entire adult lives. But there was still a lot of pushback, and my parents said it was hurtful that I wouldn't even consider it. AITA? No. OP is right. This is so silly. Just the Back in their day really got me. It's not that day anymore. It's today. And a week ago, the daughter was named. For one, if you wanted a different name considered, if you had a suggestion you wanted to give to the parents, you needed to do that when they announced they were pregnant, not when the baby is here and she already has her name. Wren is a lovely name. It's so unique. It's a really pretty name. I like it. You should rightly have no regrets. Dorothy is also a very dated name. It is a name from back in their day. And if Dorothy had been a name of someone that you were close to, that would be different. But on the mom side, the parents are asking you to honor someone you never knew, someone who was never born, like they gave that name, and now they want you to use it too. And on the dad side, they're like, oh, well, this person meant a lot to us. You probably never met that person. And if you did, maybe that person didn't mean that much to you. Or maybe you just don't like the name Dorothy. It doesn't really matter. It's your kid, and they need to respect the fact that Wren is her name. Wren will always be her name, and they need to get on board and let it go before they put a rift in the relationship. Let's find story number 2. All right, story number 2 is a short one. It comes from r/relationship advice. My husband, 24 male, told me, 24 female, he's no longer in love with me. Can our relationship be saved? Not enough context in that. Let's read some more. My husband, 24 male, and I, 24 female, have been together 4 years, married for 2. There's been a lot of contention in the relationship. He has cheated. I chose to stay but made him miserable for what he chose to do. It seems like we're always at odds, can never completely be happy. For months, we've been throwing around the idea of separating, but decided to try to make it work for the sake of love and our child. Last night, we were arguing, and I asked him to tell me a hard truth. He admitted to loving me, but he's no longer in love with me. After some reflection, I feel the same way. I just don't want to lose my family. Can our relationship be saved? I think you already got your answer. And I mean, this is not a right-wrong situation. At best, this is a train wreck because, I mean, loving someone and being in love with someone, I fully believe, are 2 completely different and separate things. And I think if neither one of you are in love with each other, it can't work. Besides that, you already don't trust him. If you did, you would not have punished him and made him miserable for what he did when he probably initially did feel bad about it. I think too much has gone wrong here to come back from. And especially if you're only trying to stay together for the child, that is never the right reason. If 2 people are only staying together for the children, not because they love each other, the children know you're not happy and you're not modeling healthy relationships for them. And it will turn out to be an even bigger train wreck. The longer you stay together, when you're unhappy and you're not in love, the more therapy those kids are going to need later. So this is a train wreck. I think you've probably done what you can. You could potentially try couples counseling, like if you haven't already done that. But if you have and it hasn't worked, I think it's time to let it go. Let's find story number 3. All right, story number 3. This one is coming from r/AITA-H. Am I the asshole for trying to convince my 17-year-old daughter that marriage is a bad idea? Yeah, not enough context in that one, just in the title. Let's read on. All right, we are returning for story number 3. Do not mind the outfit change in hair. I ran out of time to record earlier, and we are coming back maybe 3 hours later. So, it's all good. Story number 3. This is coming from r/AITA-H. Am I the asshole for trying to convince my 17-year-old daughter that marriage is a bad idea? My daughter, 17, a senior in high school, and is engaged to a Navy guy, 20. They've been dating for a year, but he has been overseas since the spring for his deployment. She says that she's planning on marrying him on her 18th birthday. She's going to stay at home for a few more months to finish high school. After that, she's planning on moving in with him into military housing to become a stay-at-home wife/mom. I told her that she doesn't know the guy well enough to marry him. They've only been together for a year, and a lot of that is long distance. I asked her if she wants to get a career and make something of herself, and she said no. She's going to be happy as a wife and a mom. I'm desperately trying to convince her that it's a bad idea and how she will be lonely being far away from home and that she'll be raising the kids by herself during her husband's deployments, but she doesn't care. She wants this life, but I won't give up on her. So, am I the asshole? Ooh, so 17. 17's still pretty young, but also I don't think anyone really ever changes someone's mind. So while it does seem like you're coming at this from a good place, like you really want what's best for her, if her mind is made up that this is the life she wants and this is what's best for her, just trying to talk her out of it is not going to convince her differently. You've given her your opinion, you've said what you think about it, you've, maybe showed her different options for what life could be like, suggested she still go for a career even if her plan is not to pursue that long term. I think that is all you can do. I think if you keep trying to tell her that she's wrong, she's too young, she doesn't know what she's doing, you are going to push her away because that's not what she wants to hear. And especially if she's going to be moving away anyway, I don't think, regardless of how you feel about it and how much you want her to not do it, I don't think pushing your issue on her is going to get you anywhere. I think it's going to push her away and it's going to be hard for you to get her back. So I would say, you said your piece, let it go. It is her decision, and for the most part, people need to learn from their own mistakes. They need to do it themselves, and if it's right for her, fantastic. If it's wrong for her, she will figure that out. And if you don't make her feel bad about it now, she will probably come to you when that time arrives, if it does, if she needs your help. So that one, not right, not wrong, not a train wreck. Neutral. I guess I need a neutral icon. All right. Story number 4. This one is coming from r/relationship advice. My husband, 30 male, wants to go on a trip to have one last fun night before we try for kids, saying my past wrongs is the reason. What do I, female 29, do? That one sounds very sketchy. That sounds like you've done something wrong in the past, and that sounds like he's still trying to punish you for it. And that just sounds like a recipe for disaster. So let's read more. There's an update first, but we'll skip that. All right. Husband 30 and I, 29 female, have been together since high school. A year into the relationship, I regrettably cheated. I was stupid and regretted the whole thing, so I told my now husband, boyfriend at the time, the day right after. Now, I'm not saying that me coming out clean makes things easier or better. It didn't. I begged him to forgive me and to stay. For half a year, we were not together. And after 6 months, we decided to try to restart our relationship. It took a lot of work and was definitely hard getting through the first few years. But after we healed, years later, we got happily married. Now we are 6 years married and planning to try for a kid next year. After the terrible ordeal at the start of our dating relationship, we have figured out how to communicate with each other and have built trust. So I don't know if this is because we have such great communication and that he expressed this to me. Before we have a kid, he wants to go on a trip, quote unquote, to have one fun night. Mind you, he said something a bit more vulgar, but we have potty mouths naturally. He used my former mistake as reason for this, that he in some way deserves it. Now, I just stood at the sink doing the dishes, speechless. Like, where did all my good communication go in that moment? Because I did not know how to tell him how much I hated the idea. Obviously, I'm desperately in love with this man, and he has been everything to me. Telling me to leave him right off the bat is not advice. Telling me to get what I deserve is not advice. I need help or courage or both to speak with him about this matter. How do I approach it? How do I say I don't like it? How do I say no? This may just be my anonymous rants because I'm too scared to tell my best friend or therapist. So here I am telling strangers. And back up to the top, there is an update. Update real quick. 1, all talks of kids have been paused and not brought back up since he asked. 2, some people asked. I was 18 and he was 19. One night stand was at a party. 3, I will be telling my therapist very soon. I also just needed the courage to talk to her as well. 4, marriage counseling was the number one advice, probably the only realistic one, and I'm well aware this may make or break our marriage. 5, please remember, I'm emotionally drained. I thought I lost him when I was 18. Of course, back then, I didn't think this far ahead. He came back to me. He came back, not me. I thought I was already left in the dust. He got down on his knee, not me. So, of course, I was blindsided by the question. Ooh. I'm with everybody else that commented. Marriage counseling is the number one option here. I really don't think there's anything else. I think the husband is wrong. Yeah, someone else making a mistake or making a poor decision in the past does not give you the right to knowingly and willfully choose to do the same thing to them. Basically to hurt them in the same way they hurt you, like almost 10 years later. That's crazy. OP does not deserve that. Like, cheating doesn't deserve cheating. That 2 wrongs don't make a right. Yeah. Talk to the therapist. Because if you don't feel like you can talk to him about it, like, there's really no going forward without counseling. I wish you luck, though. Because 6 years later, that's a lot to lose over him thinking he needs this one fun night for some reason randomly right before you guys try for kids. It's really weird to me. So yeah, counseling. Counseling can't really ever hurt. All right, let's go for... All right, we're going to go for one more because I don't know how long I even recorded the first part of the video. So we'll just do one more. Let's see. And when I kind of pause and I'm looking at my phone, I'm actually scrolling to find a story and also to copy the link to a notepad so I can add it to the description later. All right. I think story number 5. We're going to go with it. This one is coming from r/am I the asshole? AITA for not leaving my estate to my severely disabled brother. I, 33 female, received a terminal diagnosis earlier this year. I've got a couple years at best estimate to get everything in order before I won't have the cognitive ability to do so anymore. I've been working with a lawyer and an end-of-life care social worker to make sure everything will go as smoothly as possible and my wishes will be respected. I also have a complicated family situation. My parents were never married, and my dad died when I was 12 of the same condition I now have. He never married, so all his assets were put in a trust for me by my grandparents. My mom married after they broke up and had my half-brother, 26 male. He is severely mentally disabled. He's a 7-year-old in a grown man's body, and even with all the resources they can get, he's very difficult to care for, and my mom and stepdad barely get by most of the time. They tried really hard to get legal control of my trust when I was living with them, but couldn't. I help out some when things are really hard, but I feel like my mom treats me like an emergency fund rather than her daughter, and my stepdad has been bitter about the financial stuff. My dad was very successful and his family is well off, since even before my dad died. I don't talk to either of them about my life because they always get passive aggressive and guilt trippy. I've been trying to talk more with my mom now that I know I'm on borrowed time. We've never had a great relationship, but I wanted to try and resolve some of it. She's been much nicer to me and more concerned since the diagnosis, so I thought it was okay to open up a bit. I didn't want her to be blindsided or feel like she has to take on anything since I've appointed another family member to be my medical and financial POA, power of attorney. So I talked to her recently about my plans. I told her that I know my half-brother is a full-time job, so I'm having other people take care of my care, so she won't be burdened. She was thankful for that, but then brought up how she always hoped that I would be the one to make sure my brother was taken care of when she was gone, and that in a way I still would be. She would put whatever I leave behind into his care fund and would make sure he knows it's from his big sister. This is where I might be the asshole. I'm not leaving anything to my mom or brother. I don't have kids, but I have been the favorite auntie to my best friend's 2 children for their entire lives. They are the light of my life, and I spend a lot of time with them. My BFF and I have been through a lot together. She and her husband have been the ones going with me to appointments and letting me crash in their spare room when I was too sick from meds to be home alone. Whatever is left over after I'm gone is going to the kids for college. I know it's money that could secure better care for my half-brother and take some of the load off my mom, but I feel like I want to help someone else now. Oh, OP, you are right. That's a really shitty situation to be in. I'm sorry about your diagnosis, but you seem to be handling it with incredible grace, really taking all the steps that anybody could take to go ahead and take care of everything while you can, which is brilliant. Yeah, you're not the asshole. I don't think it's wrong that you want to take care of people who mean something to you. You said you barely talk to your mom. You've already done a lot to help with your half brother, and your stepdad is bitter towards you. I think you're never obligated to help family just because they're family. I feel like if you are good in your heart, in your soul with what you've already done, and leaving this money to people who have been involved in your life, who have cared about you, who appreciate you, then that's the right thing to do. If it feels right, it is. Do not let anyone guilt trip you or make you feel bad for leaving what's yours to people who care about you rather than people who are just related to you by blood, because that doesn't mean much. So go on with your plans. I mean, I do hope that your mom can get past it and you guys can have a decent relationship for the rest of the time that you're here. But I would invest what's left of your meaningful time in the people who invest back in you, which would be your best friend and her family. So enjoy the time that you have left, and don't let anyone make you feel guilty about anything. All right, y'all. The battery is down. That's kind of a sad note to leave it on, but the battery is down to 4%, and it's late. So thank you for joining me for another episode of Was I in the Wrong on the Misty Morrison podcast, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.